of humans. Let's face it, we are just too many people on this planet, and all other life forms are just disappearing. So whether it's vegetable diversity conservation or trees or dolphins or phytoplankton, we are concerned about everything. So I just want to put that larger context that vegetable diversity is one small part of a big, very large problem. But we will just narrow our focus so that we feel it is doable, something can be done. When I say ecosystem, this is a picture from Niyamgiri. Some of you may know of Niyamgiri. Niyamgiri is this fabulous region in Orissa, a tribal area which is, the entire area is occupied by tribes, Gonds, and they have shaped the entire landscape over thousands of years. So this is an anthropogenic forest. Niyamgiri is an anthropogenic forest. It is full of all kinds of useful trees. They grow their food, they grow their houses, they grow everything. If you go closer in it, they have so many crops. They have crops at different heights. They have larger trees from which there are fruit trees, there are tubers, there are climbers. It is full, absolutely. It's like the stories we hear about the Amazon. And when an ecosystem like this collapses, when it's taken over by mining companies, we lose everything. We lose all the diversities we were talking about. And it becomes something like that. Yeah? Now this is the land. This is a picture of the area that I work on. And this is the land in 1984. There's 8,000 hectares which is in this condition. And you can see that in 1700s, before the 1700s, we have clear evidence of dense forests there. And when that was removed to build the city of Pondicherry, the entire soil was eroded. So it's not just barren land, it's eroded land. And if you see the gullies, the ravines there on the left side, middle left, if you go in there, it looks something like that. Yeah? So we have, and this in the categorization of land, this is the worst land, where it's like the death of a soil, where the soil is gone, it's finished. There is 328 million hectares in India, of which almost half is degraded. And 93 million hectares is in that eroded condition which I showed you. You see? So we have to understand what's happening to the land, and we have to look at how people talk of food security and things like that when there is no concern to the amount of land that's being wasted. It's a very big problem, land degradation. So Bernard and I, when we started Pebble Garden in '94, we wanted to just spend our life trying to regenerate this kind of land, and we wanted to bring back the original forest, to revive all the trees, species, the plant, the herbs, the climbers, all kinds of vegetation that were originally there. And we also wanted to see if it's possible to regenerate this kind of land for growing food. And we worked under two conditions: no external inputs of soil or organic matter, because people told us you can't grow anything on the pebbles. You better bring soil from outside. But we don't want to do that, because that isn't the solution. Because then we are ruining another place to heal this one. The same reasoning for organic matter. We didn't want to buy organic matter from the village, pay and buy organic matter. Because if we take organic matter from a local farmer, what will he use on his feed? So we are actually encouraging depletion. And also no hired labor. It's a very small project of two of us, Bernard and myself. And I'm not going to go into the details of how we did this, but we regenerated the land. Part of it is now 20-year-old forest. We followed many steps, and basically we avoided using bringing external inputs, because we grew the biomass in situ. We used something called pioneer plants, which have the capacity to colonize difficult lands like ours, and we created the organic matter with which we built up the soil. And now we have a garden area we built up the soil, and we have a garden area of 2,000 square meters, all raised beds built with no external inputs, no soil from outside, no organic matter from outside. Thank you. And so in that garden area, it's only 1,000 square meters is for seed conservation. Please do, yes. Only 1,000 square meters is our seed conservation garden, and 1,000 meter has fruit trees and some other useful plants. And I'm conserving 90 traditional varieties of vegetables. I do vegetables because I don't have the land. We had to build up the soil, really intensively build up the soil to create this half an acre of cultivate farmland. And so I can't grow field crops. But vegetables you can grow on very small pieces of land. And on 1,000 square meters, I was absolutely determined that I want to grow everything in the world. I mean, it was with that ambition or with that desire to do it that, and once you want to grow everything on a small space, you have to think, you have to understand the needs of plants in order to combine them in a creative way. Otherwise, you can't grow. In a small space, you can't grow. You can't pack like 500 people in this room. It has a limited capacity. But you have to be creative. And that process has been really very interesting. So our garden is not like a field where there's one crop. It's all mixed up. There's one thing on top, shade-loving things at the bottom and things on the side. And that's very interesting, but I won't spend time with that now. So our garden looks like quite a mess. I mean, a big, like there's a high density and high diversity of plants in a small space. But this is seasonal because we don't, in the summer it's very dry. So summer will look not so great. And the seeds which we conserve, it's all an home-based activity. Everything happens at home and in the garden. There's no office, there's no separate seed bank. The whole house, if the garden is a seed bank. So these are seeds drying in on the veranda. And if you conserve seeds, you've got to share them. So this is Bernard, with whom I work. And many people, early people in the organic movement know him very well. In Tamil Nadu, Nammalvar and Bernard had a very long association. So he's a very known person in the organic movement in India. And now he doesn't like to travel much. But he receives visitors every Friday afternoon. And that is a time when, people come and can see what we are doing. And so I make seeds, conserve those varieties, and make seed packets. I try to do about 5,000 seed packets a year so that conserving varieties, some people feel, they have different ideas of seed conservation. Like seed conservation is about storing seeds. How do you store seeds? But to me, seed conservation means how do you conserve varieties? Like how do you conserve different varieties of one vegetable? And then it includes how to store seeds. And so at meetings like this, I bring seeds, put up a stall, and every seed is always, the last packet just got over this afternoon. Yeah. So we need more people to join in this activity. It can be done, there's no great technical aspect in it. So I'm going to show some of those technical things. I think everybody can do it, because I'm not a very organized person, but I managed to do it. So I just want to go over the subject to show you what is vegetable diversity and why does it matter. Something in this picture must indicate what I mean by vegetable diversity. Different species and different varieties within a species. You know this? This is the music of kings. It comes from a vegetable. These are veenas from the National Museum in Kolkata. This is music that kings listen to. It comes from a vegetable. The music of ordinary people also comes from a vegetable. You know what I'm talking about? Soraka, exactly. Even snakes like this music. So I start with this because this is one of my favorite vegetables. It's a very old vegetable, and its name is mentioned in the Vedic texts. And although it's believed to come from Africa, this has evolved a lot in our country. All over the country, this vegetable is eaten. Am I right? Everywhere this bottle gourd is eaten. And there's so much of diversity in bottle gourds. These are bottle gourds from different parts of India, from Karnataka, from Gujarat, from Jharkhand. Everywhere there are bottle gourds of different shapes. These are from Africa. So look at the size of these bottle gourds. They are used to transport things. Even boats can be made with the bottle gourd. But this bottle gourd, the one on the top middle, it's traditionally used for water bottle and also used for one more thing. Anyone knows?
Loofah.
Huh?
Loofah.
Toddy also, anything?
Loofah.
Loofah?
Body scrub.
Body scrub. This is not loofah. This is laganaria. This is hard-shelled bottle gourd. Huh? What? Storage. Okay, storage. But one more thing, it's used as a swimming float. For to teach children how to swim. So because you can tie a rope very safely around the middle, around the waist of a kid, one is enough, and you just jump into the well. Safely, very safely. So you can even make rafts and boats like this. Still till now Adivasis are using it, these varieties for their kanji. And it's only in India that this vegetable has been developed for its food value. Like in Africa, they grow a lot of gourds. Even Native Americans used a lot of bottle gourds, but they can't be eaten. It's only in India that this vegetable was developed by our farmers for its eating quality, and most of the Indian ones, with a few exceptions, are also food. And because they are useful because they develop a very hard shell. When it is mature, when the plant is allowed to ripen when the fruit is allowed to ripen on the plant, it develops a very hard shell, and because of that hard shell, it's useful. But they are being replaced by modern varieties, like the one in the middle. Yeah, which can only be eaten. It does not develop a hard shell. It can only be eaten. And the reason why it has been promoted now is because it can easily be packed in a box and transported. Whereas these irregular shaped bottle gourds cannot be packed in a box. So they're all dying out. You can't get these seeds anymore. It's very difficult to get seeds of traditional bottle gourds. And with that, we lose all our culture. We lose so many things. And many of these gourds are actually much more tasty than this new variety. But the new variety is also not that new. It's also an old variety. But it has been selected just for... They say that traditional varieties are not productive. But anyone who has worked with traditional varieties will see that the productivity of a traditional variety depends on the seed quality, yes. But it also depends on soil. It also depends on season. If all these three are in synergy and synchronized, you will get productive things. Like, you can't imagine something more productive than this. The same thing, that is Bernard again, but he also looks a bit like one of those snake gourds. He's really skinny, his ribs also. And but some of these traditional varieties, 2 meters long. And you can imagine, now I lost it. I had this long snake gourd. It's very hard to find the seeds anymore. You can't get it anymore. And you can imagine why this has disappeared, because now they promote a short one because it can be packed and transported. So what I'm trying to say is that the market concerns, the demand of the market, for market reasons, transportability, so many reasons like that, the traditional varieties are dying out, and the modern varieties are really not necessarily fit to eat. they're just easy to transport, easy to respond to chemicals for various set of reasons, and not necessarily good to eat. Tomatoes are not indigenous, they are not of Indian origin, they originated in the Andes, but tomatoes come in all colors except blue, but even blue is there now, all shapes except square. And even square, the juiceless, the tomatoes which have no juice, if they are packed really tight, they can appear square. And actually the color differences, they reflect variations in the nutritive content. So it isn't just about growing vegetables of different shapes and sizes and looks, but all these variations within a species, within a kind of vegetable, they have some benefit or the other. Like we saw with the bottle gourds, have some benefit. The long bottle gourds, the taste of that bottle gourd is completely different from the thick ones. But in fact, even the commercial varieties, which now have replaced the traditional ones, they are not really any modern fabrication, as we think. When you can't use the same terminology that's used for a product, like some new and improved soap or something, with traditional varieties. What is new and improved? It is the same old things. It's just that in the past, the farmers bred vegetables with different benefits. So many kinds of tomatoes. Some are juicy, some are dry, and there are many dry varieties which especially are grown in Italy, and they are meant for making a sauce or a tomato paste. So looking at that, people developed varieties which were dry. But that dryness is now being used to push it as a commercial thing, because that dryness, it's easy to transport, it won't burst, it won't be damaged in transport. But those are not necessarily the qualities that we want as home users, as home gardeners, as consumers. So we have to understand why conserving this diversity matters if we are concerned about our food, and what we are losing by accepting commercial varieties as if there's no choice. Yeah? And response to chemicals. You see that the thing is, in paddy, I don't know if any of the other speakers talked about it, the same erosion of traditional varieties of paddy. There were so many, according to Dr. Richarya, more than 200,000 paddy varieties existed in India. And you know that all of that was bred into dwarf varieties so that they could grow with chemical inputs.
Now we have only 1,100 varieties left.
Yes. So barely hardly any varieties left. In every state of India, there are so many traditional varieties. Exactly. But you see, they bred them for that dwarf thing so that they could be grown with chemicals. So just for yield. Now, yield was not always the breeding objective of our early farmers. When they developed varieties, they looked at so many things, They wanted so many different varieties. They wanted some small things which they could prepare in a different way. There's one paddy which you can eat, one rice from Assam, you can eat it raw, without cooking. It's called komal.
What is it?
Komal. It's from Assam. You just soak it in water and you can eat it. Like this, there are many, many traditional varieties bred for different purposes, not always yield. But this yield obsession is we are losing a lot from this obsession for yield. And it's also not that traditional varieties can't be productive. You can develop them for that. And this is the king of vegetables in India, the Indian Raja of vegetables. And some ancient texts actually say that in as many words, that this is the king. This is a quotation from something from a 16th century Sanskrit text. And this originated in India. We have the maximum diversity of brinjal in our country. There's every shape, color, size. You might have seen the pictures in the stall. All kinds of brinjals. And they say it's officially believed that there are around 2,500 brinjals still surviving in India, but I'm sure there is much more because I have myself grown about 50 or 60. I conserve around 20 varieties because I don't have the space or the capacity to do more, but there must surely be more than 2,500. The plants look different. The leaf, shape, color, the entire plant has, each plant is unique. And they also have other, some are more productive, but productivity is something which is very relative. Like productivity, one plant can produce a lot within a short time. There's one variety called Purple Cluster from Chhattisgarh. It produces a lot. After like 60 days it starts flowering, and within like 1 month it is finished producing a lot of fruits and dies. But there's another variety which will live for 2 years, 2.5 years, even 3 years. It will keep on producing fruits. So that is also productive. So for home users and home gardeners, we have to look at productivity in a different way, in a way which suits us. The farmers have bred brinjals which are like the size of a pumpkin. They have every possible thing is there within traditional varieties. I have seen brinjals in West Bengal and Orissa which are 700 grams, 800 grams. They say in deep soils they can grow. In my place, that same variety will be 250 grams because I don't have a soil depth. But this has been grown in my garden, that big one. And unfortunately we see, even though big movement in India stopped the BT brinjal, it is now possible it will come through the back door from Bangladesh, where it has been allowed. And this is something which is very serious, and we can't ignore this kind of danger. You had a question?
Just want to clear something out. It's maybe a misunderstanding. Is this about vegetable diversity or seed conservation topic?
The topic is on conserving seed conservation of what?
I mean, how to conserve seeds. I thought that's what it's about.
Exactly. So conserving seeds, you have to understand the difference between seed and variety.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But we're going to get to that. You mean?
This is part of it.
Okay.
So seed conservation, I said many people think that seed conservation is seed storage. Yeah? But seed conservation is much more than just seed storage. Seed conservation is conserving diversity. Yeah? And preserving seeds of diverse plants. So we are seeing why diversity matters. Why should we conserve seeds? Yeah?
So
For what?
Get to that later, you mean? Procedure of serving.
We are in it now.
Okay. But this is just telling us why do we need to serve seeds, right?
This is telling us what is diversity so that we know what seeds we are going to conserve.
Sorry.
Is there any other doubt about it?
No.
Yeah? Okay. So the normal idea of a lady's finger is something that is slim and long and green. But in fact, if you look around, you find they are from different parts of India. The one on the left side, the red lady's finger, is from Sholapur in Maharashtra. It has been grown in Orville for 35 years. It's been grown for 20 years back in 94, I got some seeds and I have been conserving it and producing seeds and spreading them. And everything is, so the middle one is from Sri Lanka and the right side, I don't know really who I got it from. Look at the difference in size.
Just a minor question. The red one,
Yeah.
I had it in Odisha. What is it called in the local language?
No, in Lal Bhindi.
You know Rosella, right?
Rosella is Khatta Bhindi.
Khatta bhindi. So they call it tok bhindi.
Tok Bhindi.
Bhindi is, I don't know if it's the red bhindi or
No.
the Rosella.
No. Tok Bhindi is Rosella. It's a different species.
Okay.
Hibiscus sabdarifa is that Tok Bhindi.
So Sabdarifa is,
Hibiscus sabdarifa.
and Lal bhindi is
Lal Bhindi is Abel moschus esculentus. Just to use a scientific term like saying we are all Homo sapiens. Yeah, so we are different from some Felix catus, which is a cat. So there are many sizes of this. Really long one on the left is called elephant tusk, and it's from Kerala. I got the seeds from George Anthony, a farmer from Kerala. You can see the difference in the plants, how different they look. Each plant is so different. The red bindi is, it's resistant to a viral disease. So these variations are not just like a fashion show of vegetables, but everything is significant from the grower's point of view also, because the red bindi resists mosaic virus. If we want to breed a variety which is resistant to mosaic virus and we lose that, we are losing something very valuable for the future of our food. And when we grow a variety, we try to understand it in a complete way, like what are its qualities, apart from the physical things of just the appearance, the size of the fruit, the color of the fruit. You understand its other deeper characters.
Actually, I grow this red bindi.
Yeah.
So my friends who does kitchen gardening,
Yeah.
they ask me what is good in red bindi and not good in the other green bindi is there in the market.
Yeah.
Other than that, it is ancient and it says it is virus.
It's also
resistant.
Huh.
What is the anything else I can tell them? I always get confused about this.
Yeah, so that's why we are going through this, so that when we want to conserve seeds, we should understand the importance of one particular variety. First of all, the color, the pigment, the red pigment, it is very, nowadays, purple and red things are known to have antioxidant, rich in antioxidants. And if we consume them raw, without cooking, we get that. And lal bindi you can eat raw.
I have another input for that. Lal is also anti-cyanine expression. So it could also reflect on a deeper relationship with the sun. Like vegetables usually go from green to yellow to red, right? So it could also reflect on that.
That could be. But anyone who cooks for the family knows that you should have different colored things in your plate. Vegetables, everything cannot be yellow. Isn't it? It's a kind of a rule that all mothers know, you have to have something green and something yellow. And so that is not just for looks, but it also gives us something deeper. Whether it is scientifically analyzed and then proven, we don't need to wait for that. Why should we wait for these tests to come out? You feel good when you eat the red bindi raw, let's just continue to do it. Yeah? Very interesting thing, that the 2 feet long bindi, elephant tusk, is a very small plant. And the small bindi is a very tall plant. Yeah? So these beauties are there, and look at the productivity of that. Look at how many bindis are there on one plant. You can't imagine one extra bindi. So this whole, can you imagine fitting one more? Where will you put it? It's just so immense. I got so many seeds from this. I had barely 8 plants. I had a whole bag full of seeds from that. So they are highly productive, and you will see, if you just grow them, you will see the productivity myth that traditional varieties are not productive. Even if it is unproductive, it could be because of soil, season, and your seed. And all these things you can play with all these things, not play, seriously work on it, to have a productive plant. You work on the seed level, select for seed. There's only one tool with which farmers bred all these varieties. Remember that these varieties were not created in a lab. They were created in farmers' fields, in very ordinary, simple people in their fields, just using their sense of judgment. The transition from wild to domestic, I think, is one of the most stunning evolutionary steps in humanity. They were able to transform a wild bindi, which has nothing edible in it, which is just like piece of paper, into one which is so juicy and edible. And then after that, there was this entire evolution everywhere of this diversity within the bindi. red, white, long, one is resistant to virus, one can tolerate, flood, one can grow for 3 years, one can grow 3.5 meters tall. There's one bindi from Assam which is 3.5 meters tall. There's a picture which I have of that. Immense number of fruits. So how did they do this? They just did it by selecting from the wild. They looked at the wild plants, they say, this one is more juicy than that. It's got a thicker flesh than that. They take the seeds from that. And like this, they worked for thousands of years and developed these cultivated varieties. If they could do that, if they could make the transition from wild to cultivated, and then from cultivated to all this diversity, why on earth do we need anything like genetic manipulation? Yeah, we have everything. You name it, we have it. Whatever you want is there in our range. That's why we should understand what we are doing. This is not about growing different colored vegetables because they look good, beautiful and stunning. Yes, that aesthetic value is there, but this is a piece of our history. This is our national plant heritage which has been done by farmers. And it's been completely almost like eliminated from our plates because of the market, because of commercial varieties taking a prominence over traditional ones. And if we in gatherings like this understand the value of this, then we can all do something to conserve it.
Deepika, I have a small story.
Yeah.
Recently in my garden, just a month back, I had the short variety,
Huh.
that little one, but green in color,
Huh.
light green in color.
Yeah.
And I gave it to one friend of mine and she said, hey, these are not bendy.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
So none of us really connect to a bendy now.
Yes.
They see only that kind of bendy.
Because we get easily conditioned by this, It's working, no? But you can hear me, no? My voice gets louder and louder. So, as I said, the selection is the one single tool which farmers used, and this is the one single tool for us to improve any variety. No matter what, if the climate gets hotter, you can develop a variety suited for that. If it gets colder, we have traditional varieties. Only by selection we can do it. You want a high yielding variety without anything concerned for taste or anything like that, it can be done. We have high yielding varieties. It's all there, and this is the perspective we need when we go to save seeds. So now we come to this topic which the gentleman was asking. So how exactly, having understood roughly the importance of this traditional diversity in the context of vegetables, then what is involved in building a collection of seed? What is the work that goes into, conserving all these things? Because you conserve a vegetable, you get the seeds, you multiply the seeds, and you spread them. That is conserving diversity. So now we go into, I believe that this diversity was conserved in farmers' fields and farmers' homes. There were no national seed banks at that time, 10,000 years ago. Every farmer's field was a seed bank. Every farmer's home was a seed bank. And this kind of I'm not saying that each and every farmer should do that now. It can be done in different ways, but decentralized seed banks in local areas is the way to go. I'm not against varieties coming from other places, because varieties coming from different continents, that has always happened historically, and it has enhanced our diet. So many things that we eat, like chilies, tomatoes, have come from other countries. That is perfectly fine. But the seed production, a variety coming from somewhere. Even for instance, I've been very interested in sugarcane because I love sweets. And so I always thought that sugarcane is Indian, but actually the plant is from Papua New Guinea. The sugarcane is originally from Papua New Guinea, and when it was growing there, it was not very sugar yielding. But it came to India, and its evolution into this thing full of sugar, happened in India. So the place of origin is not necessarily so important as the place where it developed. So we might have a nationalistic sense when we conserve brinjals or paddy because they originated here, which is fine. We should do it because we have to preserve what we have in this country. But bringing a variety from somewhere and developing it is fine. But seed growing, I feel it is much better if it is locally adapted afterwards. So I believe in the idea of home-based seed banks, and my seed bank is, I mean, all the seeds that I brought is done in this small garden, saved in my house, dried in my house, processed with no high technology at all. So there are only 3 standards. Somebody had any question before going into this? The principles are similar. For instance, this morning there was last night there was a lady staying in my hostel who says she has a drumstick variety. Huh? Okay. She's asking if for fruit trees, if the principles for conserving it are the same as for vegetables. If somebody told her that you have to look for the oldest tree to take the seeds. Yeah. So, well, it's not the oldest tree. That's you need the variety which you like the best.
But I mean, if I want to do seed diversity for fruits.
Like what? Like if you want to do mango, if you have a farm and you want to do conserve mango variety, you get the best mango varieties. The ones which you feel are the best.
And then I can take a mango from, take a seed, grow the tree, and then make.
Yeah, that we have to look at that now. We'll look at the concerns about all that because there's some. So now we're going to look at that. So there are only 3 principles when we go for seeds. So we've seen all these various lady's finger, we have seen all the brinjals, and now we feel that we ought to do it. And we ought to keep these seeds so that it's there among people. And it's not sitting in minus 34 degrees in some seed bank, you know. We want it. We want to bring this diversity back on our plates. So how can we do it? What rules should we follow? I mean, how do you do a good job of this seed conservation? So we have to only follow 3 things. One is, what is a good seed? First thing, what do you expect from a seed? It should germinate. Anyone expects that a seed should germinate. Second thing is, a seed should be physically pure. So what does that mean? And the third one is genetic purity. Let's just look at that. Germination is obvious. Yeah, I don't have to explain
No, actually,
that.
sorry,
Yeah.
I need explanation. So, supposing you have a bhindi and you take, I was told, you take the first fruit that comes because that's the one that's come first, so it must be the best. And then, what do you do? I mean, do you test it to see that it's
No.
going to germinate?
See, these are all, I'm coming to that, but you see, I'm not going to go into details, but a seed, the ability of a seed to germinate depends on few things. We'll come to that later, yeah? It depends on a few things, but there are other aspects which are more technically challenging than this question you asked. Things like what is purity, like what she asked. You know, if you have 15 mango varieties on your tree, like how will it remain, the originality remain? Your concern was that. So physical purity is an easy thing. If I'm doing seeds, it's clear that I want to follow a certain standard. I can't mix similar looking seeds. Yeah, for instance, I can't mix cotton and bindi. They look similar, but when I'm doing seeds, I can't. That's not allowed because it's not fair. The second, I can't mix a seed with weed seeds. Yeah, it should be pure, physically pure. There shouldn't be an external. The third thing is the genetic mixing, the internal mixing. Yeah, so one variety of your mango shouldn't cross with the other. Yeah, if you're going to grow from seed. So that's genetic purity is the only one aspect of seed conservation today which we have to follow. It is not a traditional practice to do any purity because we have to understand this diversity which we saw before it was spread over the entire subcontinent. Yeah, there were different varieties of brinjals growing all over India, and there was no such thing as purity. One variety belonged to that region. It belonged to that soil type. It belonged to a cluster of villages. Just like the cotton in India, I'm sure that there was, looking at the texture of the cotton fabric, India was a leading textile producer in history. And now 95% of the cotton is Monsanto. Every region had its own variety of cotton, and tomorrow you will hear Uzrama speaking about this, and I'm sure she's going to raise that issue. But cotton, the diversity is gone. Everything which we are wearing now, you and me, including khadi clothes, we are making Monsanto rich by doing this. So we should not let that happen to seed for our plants, for our vegetables, for our paddy, for our food. It's already happening, but the future is in our hands. So genetic purity, it becomes, you see, that natural distribution of varieties, that was, the purity of the characteristics of a variety was maintained by geographical isolation. Yeah? So there was no question of maintaining genetic purity. They just grew the brinjal, kept the seeds, shared it. Right? There was no such thing. But now that is all disturbed. And when we start to do it, we are doing that rescue effort, which we said, we are rescuing something which is dying. We disturb that natural thing. We bring many varieties in one place. Like if you want to grow different mangoes on your farm, and I'm growing 8 varieties of bindis, one next to the other in a long bed. So I have to look at this. I have to make sure that the originality of a variety is preserved. And what does that mean? That simply means that if I have a green bindi and a red one, that the pollen should not get transferred from the green to red. Yeah? I'm not using any scientific terms to explain this. It simply means that there can be no shadi between the green and the red. Hai na? We are not allowing this kind of relationship.
On the contrary, if you want the selection to happen, then you would promote this shadi.
You can see that crossing. I mean, this intercaste shadi, it is the source of new things. Yeah? But now we are not talking of creating new things. We are talking of conserving old ones, which are dying out.
No, I was asking that when the farmers used to do selection earlier, they would kind of...
No, they were not. This is a modern breeding. Farmers never did this crossing. This is all Mendelian. You've heard of Mendel. After Mendel, this whole thing of crossing started. That was never a way of breeding. Farmers did only by selection. I said by looking at the plants, selecting one, then selecting a better one, next generation. That was, you see the difference? They didn't cross varieties. That was never traditional.
Crossing was happening by the nature.
Crossing happens in nature.
Maybe by this method.
Maybe crossing can happen in nature, but purity was also not a concern at that time, that much. Nobody grew 8 varieties of bindi in one place. One village will have 1 or 2, maybe they had. And there would be some amount of crossing.
So they keep preserving the best of the seeds.
That's all they did. That's all they did at that time. But now we have reached a time when that whole diversity is gone. So we need to conserve these original types. Just like it's happened with the cattle. With the cattle breeds of India, we have long history of domesticating cows in India. And the cattle breeds, because of crossbreeding, we have lost so many cattle breeds. Every state. How much? 80% of cattle breeds are gone. So there's nothing wrong with crossing. There's nothing morally wrong. Yeah? So, but we don't want that to happen because we are preserving originality. Yeah, call it genetic purity, call it originality. We want the green to remain green and the red to remain red. Why? How? Wait. How do we do it? We are going to look at how do we do it. So why do we, is it halfway? Okay, it's coming. So what is the problem if they cross? If I give you a packet and say it's red bindi and it turns out like this, is it okay? Huh? It's not okay, because I've written there that it's red and I've told you so much about red bindi. Yeah? If I grow them one next to the other and then they have this shadi, then the outcome will be something like this. Only if red and red have shadi. Yeah? If there's a relation between a red and the outcome is like this, then it's okay. This is allowed. So there's only one rule for maintaining purity. Your question. There's only one rule, which is pollen from another variety should not come. Yeah? We should stop that. And for bindi, we do it like this. Yeah? This is the way we prevent that shadi from happening. The early morning, bindi flowers open in the morning. At 6 in the morning, if you go, the flower is just beginning to open. Yeah? You take a string and tie it. Not a very thin string, a slightly thicker one. You just tie the top, the flower, and you tie a marker at the base. And remember to tie that marker at the base, because the flower falls off the next day, and you should know that you have done this, and the seeds from that fruit will be original. There's another word which they use, and that's called true to type. The seeds from that fruit will be pure. Yeah? Will be red bindi. Correct? Got it? No.
When does this get pollinated?
No. There is no seed in the seed develops in the fruit. What you see there on the right side is a fertilized, after the thing, shadi has happened, whatever it is, some shadi has happened internally, the fruit will start developing. You see the fruit start developing, and the seeds also start developing inside. It takes many days. It will take a long time before the seeds are mature.
This doesn't get pollinated?
Yeah, the thing is, I'm showing you something practical. There's a lot of deeper things in this. There's no one method for every plant. This is a method only for bindi. And this method of tying it is a very simple way in which anyone can keep multiple. So many of you have taken seeds from me, 2-3 varieties. If you just grow it and keep the seeds, you'll have all kinds of crossbred seeds will come out. But if you do this, you can keep the original type. Yeah? And this method, isn't it obvious? You can't see what I've done? It's not a botany class. The flower is opening in the morning. I told you that we have to prevent it from being pollinated by another variety. The foreign pollen should not come. Yeah? Pollen, no, I don't want to use self-pollinated. But the foreign pollen from another variety, which can be brought by a bee, which is here, a bee can transfer pollen. You can see the bee in the left side flower. If it flies and goes to the red bindi, it can cross, and you can have this type of a phenomenon when it's neither green nor red. So you have to prevent that bee from transferring the pollen, and you can use this method for bindi because it has the capacity to self-pollinate. Because it has the capacity to self-pollinate on its own, without any external agent, you can tie it. Yeah? You can use this method only for plants which have male and female in the same flower and which have the capacity to self-fertilize. Yeah?
Amount of time we have to give before we...
No, in the morning your flower opens, at 6, you go at 6:30, tie it and leave it.
When the flower is come out.
You don't need to open it, it will fall off the next day. The moment you do it, these questions are coming because you haven't done it. Yeah? Because you haven't seen a bindi flower opening and you've not seen the thing growing. The moment you see it and do it, you won't ask me any questions. Pardon me, what's the thing? Yes. Yeah. You can do only in one fruit if you want few seeds. Do it in 5 fruits if you want more. Do the entire plant. If you're growing only one variety on your farm, there's not a problem. You just let it grow. There's no possibility of foreign pollen coming. Just let it grow.
The bees don't come from neighboring farms and all of that? I mean, is that not
It can, depends on how far and all. There's nothing technical about it. So you'll have to work that out from your own experience. So we need to focus on this originality only in certain circumstances if we want to conserve diversity. So we have to understand this bit of botany. Not botany, I have not used any scientific terms like stigma or style. Just the shadi should not happen between two jati. Yeah? It can happen. There's nothing morally wrong with it. But we want to preserve the original types. Yeah, we are talking of seed conservation, variety conservation. So we have to understand this. Foreign pollen should not come in plants which have the capacity to self-pollinate. So bindi I have shown you. So if we are selling label seed, yeah, then I put a thing red bindi and it comes out green. That's not correct. Yeah. If we want to, suppose you develop a market for red bindi and people want red bindi, then you also have to do that, because then you should be sure it's going to come out red. If you also, for instance, capsicum seeds are very expensive. So you buy capsicum seeds, some open pollinated variety, you grow it. You're also growing chili nearby. It crosses. All your capsicums will get hot within no time. So in certain cases, even if you want it just for your own use, you don't want to eat spicy capsicums. And the other one is purity also is needed if we want to safeguard from GM contamination. But we have not reached that stage yet, but this is going to be a very big problem. We are going to lose, like GM mustard, they were fighting yesterday in Delhi, protesting against the release of GM mustard. And if that happens, GM mustard is very highly cross-pollinating plant. We lose our diversity. In the case of brinjal, that is terminator thing. I think Umendraji can explain those type of things, but that's a different issue. Let's go through these few steps, because these are things which maybe some of you, even if you start multiplying seeds, you have to be concerned with this genetic purity. You have to be concerned if you want to be part of a seed movement to conserve diversity. We have to do it. So in the case of brinjal also is a plant you can see. I need a workshop of 1 day to explain step by step the whole thing. So I'm only giving you an introduction just to sow some seeds and leave it with you to think and figure it out. So in the case of brinjal, you can see that the male and female, there are 2 parts in the flower. Yeah, you don't have to bother which is male, female, but they are male and female. The flowers are very small. You can't tie them. Can you tie a brinjal flower? Have you seen a brinjal flower? No, I mean, it's really untieable, practically speaking. I mean, many would have seen, but I don't think anyone would have gone with a piece of twine and tried to tie it. Yeah? So it's really very difficult to tie this, but this is also a type of plant which has the capacity to self-pollinate, but in nature it's open to the, these forces of bees bringing pollen from one to the other. That openness is there. We have to prevent that because of our objective to conserve original types. So in the case of brinjal, chilies, basil, tomato, we can do this since we can't tie the flowers. You've seen how small the chili flowers are. You've seen how small basil flowers are. What do you do to prevent the bees from crossing 2 varieties? You can put a mosquito net. So I've seen in commercial seed production farms, they use large netted tunnels, very big netted tunnels, huge ones. We don't have the resources to do that kind of thing. We want to see how we can have a home-based thing with the minimum expense, but which is following all the standards of seed production. Those 3 standards which I showed you, germination, physical purity and genetic purity, those are the standards which any seed company follows. Yeah? There's nothing more than these 3 things. I'm showing you ways of doing 100% professional seeds at your home. If you follow these 3 things, that's it. In case you want, if you don't want too many seeds, you can put 2 chilies and 1 brinjal, 3 chili plants, 1 brinjal plant within 1 net. If you want more seeds, you can have a row with 1 variety in each net. So sometimes I do that because now if I have 10 varieties of brinjal, I put 1 variety in each mosquito net. But everyone does, you have to judge how much seeds you want. If you want only 1 fruit, you want it only for your own garden, that you can do this. Just bag an individual flower. At the time when I did this, I was stitching small bags with old mosquito net. But now I've even stopped that. I just take a triangular piece of mosquito net and I am able to fold it over. You put the net, the triangular piece under the flower, you bend that one end over it and you tie the two ends behind it. Phool ke niche, phool ke piche. Yeah? And you have 100% pure brinjals. There are some exceptions, like in the case of sunflower and onion. These are plants which have male and female in the same flower, but they cannot self-pollinate. And it's very interesting once you get into this. Even if you have not seen these things before, you don't have to read botany textbooks. Just go in the field and observe it. Just see where is the pollen coming from. Wherever the pollen comes from, everybody in India knows, even the ones who have never been to a formal school, they know this word parag. They know makarandam in Tamil. That word pollen is their very old word, So they know that there's something called pollen. And that pollen comes from the male part. When the pollen reaches the female part, then the two unite. That's the male and female join and a seed is formed by that unity. So in the case of sunflower, it's very interesting. It's not one flower. Those little things, each of them is one different flower. And you see the male is coming. Those black things, that is the male. And that releases pollen. But there's no female. The female comes after. Look at that same outer line. It looks different. Yeah? So the pollen is released before the appearance of the female. And it comes in succession. You see? So the pollen from the second row will fertilize another row. It happens in sequence because it's opening in sequence. This is the beauty of nature, and every one of us can observe it without reading a book. And because of this sequence, the pollen from the second row will fertilize the female on the first row. Third row will do the second, like that. And that transfer has to happen with bees. So there are exceptions like this where male and female are in the same flower, but they don't pollinate, they don't fertilize because of certain reasons. It's very complicated, and the deeper you go, the more you will get sucked into it. Now we come to another type of plant, which is pumpkins. Yeah. So in the case, if you want to grow different types of pumpkins, and this is very useful for us because some pumpkins are very sweet. Some pumpkins, I don't know, Tamil people don't like sweet ones because they don't like that sweet taste. But some pumpkins you can keep for 6 months. Some will get spoiled very fast, but they taste very good. Some remain firm when you cook it. Some get mashed. So this is different preferences for which we need to have different varieties. If we are going to grow different types of pumpkins, that flowering pattern is different. You see, have you seen this type of thing? Do you know what these two things are? Do you see any male? Which is the male? Left is the male. Which is the female? Exactly, because you see the baby fruit. So when there is male and female on different flowers, if you tie all the thing and leave it like bindi, will you get seeds? You won't get any seeds, right? Because there has to be, the pollen from the male has to reach the female part. And who does that? Who does that job? It's the bees. So pumpkin flower, early morning, if you go, even I've gone to the garden at 5 o'clock when it's dark, and I have seen bees there. I'm surprised. I used to keep these bees before, and I'm surprised that they're active at 5 o'clock. They just love the pumpkin. And their job is not to pollinate. Their job is to collect pollen for themselves. And they go to drink the nectar. They are doing their job, but they're also in the process fertilizing this pumpkin. So, in that case, what do you do if you want to maintain different varieties in the same place? You have to do the job of the bee, right? So you do the job of the bee and make sure that the bee is not going to mix the pollen from the long one on the round one. Yeah? And you do it like this. So pumpkin flowers open in the morning. So the previous evening, You have to walk in your field. You have to go around with this same twine which I showed you a picture of. You cut pieces of it about 6 inches long, and you identify which flower is going to open the next morning, which are the male, which is the female. You decide who the partners are. One female has 3 male partners, yay. And you tie the flowers. The next morning, you cut the male flowers, yeah, bring them close to the female, open the male flowers and take out the pollen bearing part, the picture in the middle, expose that, be very gentle with it so that the pollen doesn't fall, and open the female flower and dust the pollen. Do as if like you were a bee, like the bee is doing it. You don't need to rub it or do anything excessive. Yeah? And after that's done, make sure that you tie the flower again. Make sure that you tie the flower again, because even after you've done it, bees will still come. In fact, you have to shoo them away. So close the flower and tie a marker on that fruit so that you know that the seeds from that fruit will be of the original type. Yeah? Is it complicated? Yeah? It can be done. You don't need any scientist to tell you this. Any farmer can do this and understand this. And we have to do it. The same rule and principle and thing applies even for bottle gourd. You can do bottle gourds by this. People say, oh, but who's going to do all this? Yeah? So you have to decide. If you want to save seeds, you have to do this. You want to conserve diversity, grow a long bottle gourd and a round one together, you have no other choice but to do this. Otherwise, if you're only growing it for your food, and you're not bothered about it, that's fine. Let anything cross. And so what if you have different shapes of bottle gourds? So what if you have different colored brinjals? Everything goes into the sambar anyway. Yeah? But in the case of brinjal, for instance, there are some varieties which are meant for bharta. Yeah? If you grow it together with some small ones which are meant for stuffing, it's not going to work. Yeah? You want to keep that large size, so you can't make bharta with tiny brinjals, can you? So we need it. If we have to understand why we need this, and these are the techniques we have to use to maintain that originality. There are some vegetables like this, ridge gourd and sponge gourd. You know this. And in these, the flowers are very small. So it's a practical problem, not technical. How do you tie the flowers? It comes to just very simple things. How do you tie the flowers if it is very small? You can't tie the flowers, so you can cover them with a paper bag. And that's how I do, because there's a lot of diversity of ridge gourd in India, in eastern part of India. There are round ones, there are clustered ones, there are ones with mild ridges and ones with deep ridges. There's an enormous diversity, and if we want to preserve that, we do the same thing. You don't need an explanation. You identify the male, identify the female, cover the flowers with a paper bag, and the next morning you do the same thing. In the case of sponge gourd, the flowers open in the morning, so you have to do the tying the previous day. In the case of ridge gourd, the ridge gourd flowers open in the evening, so you tie the flowers in the morning. Tie means cover it with a paper bag. So it can be done. It is possible. There are some things like these where the flowers are very tiny, especially Karela. Karela flowers are so tiny, and I have not succeeded to this day to do that. I had at one time a white Karela and a green one, but I could not do it because it's so small. But that's also because I'm busy with many things, and if you spend time, you can figure out that also. I know it can be done. Cucumber also can be done, and snake gourd can also be done covering with a paper bag. But you have to work on this, and that's why I hope that we can have a community of people working on this thing, so that we can say, somebody can say that I tried it with this and it works. I tried it that way and it works, There's another way of maintaining purity also. If we do it at a community level, if we are not all growing 10 varieties in one place, if 10 people staying in different villages are growing one variety each, that's a way of doing it. In fact, that is the most ideal way of doing it in a country like ours. And if we work at community level, or even if you're a group of 10 urban gardeners, you can do it. One person takes one variety and then you share the seeds, you know. So we have to work out which variety is practical, but having this understanding, it will help us. It will help us at every stage. So now I've talked about genetic purity roughly, just introduced you to the idea. Did you get some idea of what it is? Yeah, and why it's important to keep that? Yeah. Now, if you want seeds to germinate, the question which some people ask, you know, because there's a feeling that seed conservation is a seed storage. Yeah. So basically, if you want seeds to germinate, storage, the way in which you store it does matter. And actually, all these things, like you have to choose seeds from healthy parents. You have to select your fruits from healthy parents, not sick parents. These are common sense things which all farmers know. If you're new to farming, then you need to be introduced to these things. But every farmer, I do this seed production workshops for traditional farmers, and this part is boring for them because they know all these things. You know, they know how to store, how to dry, how to do those things. But just to roughly, quickly go through it, parents should be healthy. Seed harvesting, you asked that. People have different practices. Some people say first fruit, some people say second fruit, some people take the last fruit. I keep the whole plant. You know, there's no hard and fast rule. It depends on what is important for you. You know, some, like in capsicums, I usually take out the first flowers, because capsicum flowers when it's very small, you know, and the plant looks very young. So I would like that it grows a little bit bigger. So I tend to remove the first flowers if I come to that, and then keep the rest for fruits. But people who want to eat from it also, if you have one brinjal plant and you want to eat from it, if you keep the first fruit for seed, it will slow down the productivity of the plant, because all the energy is going into making the seeds. And then you should not lose your interest in eating those, in growing that. So in that case, just be practical and take the last fruit. Yeah. But the strongest seeds are from the first few fruits. That everybody knows, because the plant is vigorous and the energy is going into that. So just use practicality to figure that out. Is there any other question left on that?
In terms of germination, you say,
If you, yeah, the thing is, for germination, if you harvest seeds from, if you harvest a fruit which is immature, yeah, then obviously your seeds are not going to be good. Some people ask me when they see the gourds hanging in my house, they say that, oh, this is so nice. Can I buy a bottle gourd from the market and dry it? And will it become like this? What do you think? Why? Because it's immature. The seeds have not developed inside. So you should understand that there's a process, you know, of maturity, of the seeds becoming mature in the fruit, and it's only when they rattle in the thing, or when the color of the fruit changes, brinjals will change from green to yellow, or purple brinjals change from purple to brown. When the fruit color changes, it is maturing, and you should harvest seeds from mature plants, from mature fruits. You should take out. Good cleaning also influences germination. If you don't clean your seeds properly and leave a lot of pulp on top, then they tend to get fungus. They won't be viable for a long time, and you won't be able to keep them for long. So the way in which you clean seeds, there are many techniques for that. If I had time, I would show you. But I need 3 hours for that. So I would go for each vegetable and show how to, take out the seeds, how to have clean seeds. But it's not so complicated. For any seed with a pulp around it. Tomatoes, you want to take out tomato seeds and you want to have them clean without pulp around it, that it doesn't get fungus. You scoop out the tomato seeds from the ripe fruit, not an immature fruit, fully ripe fruit. Scoop out the seeds, put it in a bowl of water, and not a bowl of water, just put the pulp there, add a little water to it, and keep it covered. You can put it in a bottle also, you can keep it in any jar, any container, and just keep it with a light lid. And 1 or 2 days it develops a mold. Tomatoes get a white mold on top. After it gets a white mold, you just squeeze it with your hands and use a tea strainer to strain it out. You'll see how clean the seeds come out. And that will have, in fact, that process of fermentation, actually it enhances germination. And I have just discovered it this year, very recently, because I tested it, because I did a small experiment. I had, Basella spinach. Some of you will know Basella spinach. It is it's a very, it likes hot and humid climate. It's a very vigorous, productive, green leafy vegetable, good for summers. It's a fantastic vegetable. So the seeds of that often don't germinate very well. Has anyone experienced that? They don't germinate sometimes very well. So I did this fermentation. Normally we just dry those seeds. It has a lot of pulp, but everybody just dries it. And this time I tried. I did the same thing. The seeds are covered with a thick red pulp. So I just mashed it and let it ferment, and then all that pulp comes out, and you do a test. If it's fermented, what's the germination? If it's not fermented, what's the germination? You'll see how fast the fermented one germinates. In 3 days it germinates, whereas the dried ones sometimes take 10 days or even 2 weeks it takes. So I have a problem because I bring seeds to share and distribute, and if it doesn't germinate, I can't bring them. So I did a germination test for all the seeds I brought, and I discovered it just 15 days back.
Your fermentation test is the thin layer of white mold.
Fermentation process. You wait for a mold to form, and then you can clean it out. And proper drying influences germination. So if you want seeds to germinate well, and you dry them in the full blasting sun, in like Pondicherry sun, then it might be a problem. It's most likely to be a problem. As I understood from trial and error, I got fed up of drying seeds in a slow process. But the slow drying of seeds is ideal for seed longevity and for seed longevity and quick germination. You should dry it maximum up to 10 o'clock in the open sun, or after 3 o'clock, but between 10 or 11 and 3 is not advisable. Shade you can do. Shade like veranda space. You can dry seeds in a veranda for a long time. It depends. There are many traditional practices. So what the people, traditional farmers do is really the most time tested, and it works, those things. So we have to see our need and our situation, and decide what is good in our situation. So when I had gone to a tribal area, they said, हम तो बस वो करेला का बीज लेके दीवार पे ऐसे लगाते हैं. Huh? It works for them because they have mud walls. If I do that in my house, plaster seeds as it is, my house is full of cobwebs and dirt, and if I go to stick seeds on the wall, it's not going to be appreciated. So another beautiful way of storing snake gourd seeds, which is traditionally used, they take the seeds in cow dung, they put a pat, and they just put the seeds inside that cow dung. They actually put the cow dung up on the wall. Then they just stick the seeds inside that. And when they want it, they take the whole thing, they just break it, so the seed comes together with the fertilizer, and they sow it. It's marvelous practices. They are still doing those things. They do that for cucumber, so many things. So we have to see what's suitable for us. And me, I'm doing it. I have it's not very modern, a very simple house, brick house. And I can't plaster it on the walls. And I want my seeds to last for 2 years because I said I have a garden of only 1,000 square meters. So variety I need to keep for 2 years. I may grow it only the year after next. So for that I need really clean seeds and well-dried seeds so that I can store them for long. And storage, also traditional ways are really the best. If it is suitable and you're working at community level with traditional farmers, then continue those practices. That aspect of seed conservation has not been studied by many people. These traditional seed storage practices, such wonderful ways. Like in this area, I've heard they used foxtail millet. The seeds remain good for 7 years. They will not spoil. No insect attacks foxtail millet. So, but pulses like cowpea get very quickly attacked by insects. So this, people have done it and they have figured out really the best way. They put the cowpea seeds in between the foxtail millet.
We call them rebels.
Huh?
We call them rebels.
We call them, yeah. They themselves call themselves tribals, I mean, if this is not scientific work, I don't know. This is real science, everyday science, which works in life. So I value these time-tested practices. And now let me see what's there. 10 minutes more. So now I come to the difficult part. Now, okay, we empower ourselves with the techniques, how to have seeds which germinate, how to have pure seeds that we can produce in our homes and our gardens, the purest seeds. But if we don't work on these things, if activists are not fighting against GM contamination, that can really ruin everything, because bees are going to go wherever, And so GM contamination is a very serious threat for seed savers and people in this conservation thing. And the other is the seed laws. The seed laws, we should actually have a discussion on that, because this is something which is so alien to our history and culture of farming. The fact that people now can own a variety, the seed laws and those things really will block us, because there's I don't know if you know, are there any people who know something about the seed laws? Yeah, there are a set of seed laws in this country which are shaping the future of seed. And since independence, the future of seed is seen as the future of the seed industry. Yeah? Everything, you read any vision or policy document of the government, future of seed in India is the future of the seed industry. But we have just seen today that is what is ruining our food system. We need to get back this old diversity so that we can enrich our own diets, enrich our health and well-being. And so we will have to oppose this kind of thing. These seed legislations prevent, because any traditional variety, you can take any paddy variety and you can register it on your personal name, and I will not have any right to I can grow it maybe, but I cannot sell the seed. I cannot put it in a packet and label it. I cannot write red bhindi, because he will say, it is my variety, how dare you do that? Yeah, anyone at this point can do that, and this is really going to block us from conserving our diversity. We need to have we need a discussion on these things, and we need to involve people. It's not only seed savers issue, it's not only the concern of farmers, it's the concern of everyone who wants like a different food system. Yeah, so if you have any ideas on how we can develop this, I would, because we work practically, and when it comes to these policy things, you say, who's going to do all that, like, but it's really going to come in our way.
On that note, I would like to share this statement that was once said by, I think many of us read this, The Great Read, Gene Robbery, which was published in 1986-87.
Yes.
So you find this statement over there by a former US secretary who said, if food could be used as a weapon, we would be happy to use it.
Yes.
So
it's a way of controlling.
Right.
It's a real control over us, and we might still think, we might be unaware of these forces controlling our food system. When we still go to a vegetable shop, we feel you can buy this and this and this and this, but we don't understand how seriously it's being controlled by industry and by the governments which support that industry. Yeah? Yeah, all these initiatives are really valuable and required. India is a very big country, so let there be diversity of initiatives too. We need many people to start these, to think on these lines, and to oppose these this kind of legislations which prevent organized seed exchange. So Yeah, so we are trying to form a network of seed savers to address these concerns. But we are also struggling because we are grassroots seed savers. We like working in the field. We don't like to read the seed laws. Even understanding those things are difficult. So we need community participation from all kinds of people. Doesn't matter if you're an engineer or a doctor. If you're concerned about this, we need people, or even lawyers who have an understanding, people who have an understanding to support this. And if anyone has any ideas, I'm not on Facebook or social media or anything, but you can email us at pebblegardenforest@gmail.com. And I just want to wrap up a few things. The thing is, what was I saying? By the same techniques we use to maintain genetic purity, we can, for certain vegetables, guarantee GM-free seeds. But this is very difficult because these techniques I showed you of tying the flowers, it's not a traditional practice. Nobody did it in the past because I told you that diversity was spread over a landscape and geographical isolation maintained this diversity. So they just grew the plants, make the seeds. So none of these people are going to do all that. So it's going to be very difficult. Few people who are committed can do this rescue operation and conserve few seeds. But it's very difficult. And there's just a list on the left of crops which I think from my practical experience of crops which you can do, and the other ones on the right are very difficult to protect by this tying the flowers, controlling the pollination. You see the same thing with the GM, the issue of maintaining purity of varieties, we are preventing foreign pollen. I said don't allow foreign pollen. So GM also, we don't allow GM pollen. Yeah, but it's very difficult to do. And that's why we have to join in this fight. We have to do both. If we don't work to fight and we don't work to conserve, it's going to be really hard for us. But the only silver lining is that if we have the seeds with us, we have it with us. If we lose a variety, it's gone forever. Yeah? If we still try to collect and we keep it with us, we can still exchange, we can still grow. That possibility of, no, who knows, I'm giving him 5 seeds of some variety. Nobody knows. Yeah? So that thing is very empowering. I can still do it and we can share it. That will never go from our hands if we have the seeds. Yeah.
We have time for just 1 or 2 questions, but post that you could come here and Deepika will be happy to answer.
Six o'clock.
Yeah? Sorry. Okay, they're saying you didn't give the email ID.
Oh,
but,
yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I had a
Thank
question.
you also for listening. And
Yeah, I have a question. Quick question. If you're conserving a particular variety in a particular land, is there no? Do we not need to worry about inbreeding and?
yeah, those are issues too. Yes, inbreeding is an issue, and but for most plants which are naturally self-pollinating, you don't see any kind of depression. Then because they have that's the natural tendency. Yeah, they don't have that. Only in plants which are highly cross-pollinating, you definitely see that kind of a depression. That's why I said that, I said for one female pumpkin flower, 3 male flowers, preferably from 3 different plants. Yeah? So we have to do that. But the best thing is to work at a community level. That is the most ideal thing. The ultimate dream is that we restore diversity like the way it was. But if it's not going to happen, then we have to have a group of 20 farmers. If we have 20 varieties of bindi, or we have 50 farmers and 25 varieties, 2 people grow 1 variety. Like that. We have to figure out a way to do it. We have to, there's no choice.
Madam, you told you are keeping seeds for 2 years,
Yes.
alternative years. How you keep it?
Yeah, that for lack of time I could not show you those things, but I use a domestic fridge. For all seeds, you don't need a fridge. But for things like beans, like cowpea, long bean, this avrekai, they get spoiled very fast. So there is a simple way. You don't even need a fridge. But if you can freeze, first you dry the seeds for 1 month in the shade. After that, if you put it in the freezer for 48 hours, it will kill all the weevil eggs. 48 hours only. Then take it out. And then you see. You will not get any insects in cowpea. So some techniques are there, but I need a longer session for that. I use a fridge. I use a normal domestic fridge. I use both the fridge compartment and the freezer. But you have to be very careful for the freezer. You have to be very careful to dry seeds for 1 month in shade. Long drying is required. Otherwise, you can kill the seeds.
So last question, please. Last question.
Yeah. Excuse me. More than a question, I have some happy news to give you regarding traditional seeds. There's a report of the Estimates Committee on Organic Farming. I had appeared before the committee to give my suggestions. One of my suggestions was to set up a traditional seed bank. I would like to tell you the committee has not only accepted the recommendation, they have forwarded it to the Agriculture Ministry for implementation. Can you read this out? It's a short recommendation. Should I repeat? Yeah, this is the Estimates Committee. It's a parliamentary committee which makes recommendations to the ministries. They have made a recommendation to the Agriculture Ministry to set up traditional seed banks. This is what the recommendation reads. Traditional/organic seeds are one of the most important inputs needed for promotion of organic farming. Traditional seeds have certain resistance to drought, flood, pest, disease, and have better quality of nutritional value. The committee notes with concern that in the absence of natural seeds with higher degree of regenerational feature, hybrid seeds are largely being used in organic farming. They also note that the use of traditional seeds leads to cost effectiveness of the organic farmers as compared to costly hybrid seeds monopolized by big multinational companies. In order to ensure adequate availability of quality organic natural seeds, the committee recommends that organic seed banks be set up in each agroclimatic zone so that their regional biotic properties may be saved and utilized by new generations. The committee is optimistic that setting up of organic seed banks would go a long way in helping the farmers become debt-free on one hand and reducing the humongous subsidy on the national exchequer on the other. And therefore, government must come up with a concrete plan for setting up of an organic seeds bank and apprise the committee within 6 months of the presentation of this report.
I have a, can you hear? Okay. I just have one question to ask you. Is it seed banks where farmers have access to all seeds, or is it seed banks only of released varieties? No, it's not any calculation. The fact is then in most seed banks, existing government seed banks, farmers can take seeds of released varieties but not of germplasm. So farmers, that additional thing that farmers should have free access to all the traditional seeds should be there. That's it.
आपका नाम? केतन जी ने बहुत अच्छा बात की. मैं इतना कहना चाहूँगा, एक गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया की नेशनल टास्क फोर्स ऑन ऑर्गेनिक फार्मिंग बनी है. अभी भी उसकी इंटरिम रिपोर्ट आई है. फाइनल रिपोर्ट आनी है. गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया की वेबसाइट पे, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर की वेबसाइट पे वो रिपोर्ट है, इंटरिम रिपोर्ट, नेशनल टास्क फोर्स ऑन ऑर्गेनिक फार्मिंग. आप ये सुझाव अगर वहाँ भी देंगे तो वहाँ और रीइंफोर्स हो कि गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया जो कुछ ऑर्गेनिक फार्मिंग पे करने वाली है वो सारा कुछ उसने टास्क फोर्स के खाते में डाल दिया है. नहीं वो हाँ वो नहीं चलिए वो उसमें वो जो होती है ना एडवाइजरी कमेटी जैसा रहता है. तो ये जो ऑर्गेनिक टास्क फोर्स वाला जो मामला है उसकी रिपोर्ट जो देख सकते हैं वो जरूर देखें और ऐसे अच्छे सुझाव थोड़ा वहां भी अगर जोड़ेंगे तो अच्छा रहेगा.
Thank you so much, Deepika, once again for inspiring our thoughts to get a little bit out of conservation. There's a little announcement. Somebody has lost